Hello, you, as John T would say. Hey, everyone! It is Monday night. I'm excited. I have had a heck of a day at work. Start of a week after a long weekend, getting ready for the stream. I am excited for the subject matter. I'm excited to talk to you all about Bucky, and I'm super excited for the guests we have on this episode. I cannot believe. No offense to the 114 guests we've had on before. We've had some amazing folks, some people watching here, but I'm incredibly excited that this week we're going to get to talk to a voice actor, an incredibly talented voice actor, the voice actor who brought Bucky to life, as well as many other characters that we know and love. So that's coming in the second half of the show. But before I get ahead of myself, let me rewind. Hey, it's Monday night. Thank you all for watching. We do this every single week. This is our weekly show where my wife and my wife who's putting our daughter to bed right now, talk all things Lorcana. This week, we're going to talk for about an hour and a half before This Week in Ink. We've got some fun things to talk about. We're going to talk about the Bucky Errata. We're going to talk with like I said, the voice actor behind Bucky, the one who brought Bucky to life. And we're also going to talk, we're going to do trivia with Carolyn, our weekly trivia segment with some surprise guests. And all in all, it's going to be a great show. So throughout the show, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to Becky Bonkers for watching in the UK. It's super late over there. So, thanks for tuning in, even though it's the wee hours of the night / morning. So it's going to be great. So once again, throughout the show, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. We love interacting with you all who are watching. And if you have any questions for Bob, feel free to ask him, because this is probably I don't know, once in a very seldom opportunity to interact with somebody behind some characters that you know and love. If you haven't looked up Bob, you should look up his resume, because I guarantee he's done characters that you've seen multiple choice. So anyway, all right. So let's get into it. So this week, there's all sorts of stuff we can talk about. I'm going to look at one preview card once we get our first guest in here. And then I think we're going to dive into, and we're going to spend the preponderance of our time in the first half of the show talking about the Bucky errata. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it needed? Was it overkill? Should it set a precedent? We have thoughts. I know you have thoughts. So we're going to get into it. And if you have thoughts, we'd like to hear them. So, but to start, let me welcome in our first guest for the evening. This is a guest who's been on the show multiple times now. It's Marco Coral.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
Hey, for those who don't know, if you haven't watched before, Marco manages actually our local LGS, sets up some amazing tournaments, is a judge, has done some incredible high level events in all sorts of TCGs, and is a Lorcana judge. So, Marco, as always, glad to have you here.
It's so great to be here. Well, the guest later on, I definitely want to hear what he has to say as well. But hey, everyone. I'm really happy to be in the podcast, and I'm excited to see the new spoiler.
Oh, yeah. Well, I usually don't go through all the spoilers of the week here. There's so much to talk about every week, and there's so many spoiler cards. We always I don't know, we talk about some of them, but I had to talk about this one because the art here is just bonkers. Look at this. Look
Yes,
at this
that's
card.
amazing.
Kudos. Let me get our face off the card there. So kudos to our friends over at Illuminats. You should all tune into them. We'll post the link to their channel in the show notes afterwards. But they got to reveal this card, and brand new Nicholas Cole art. I mean, the card is cool. It's a Floodborn Robin Hood, and the art is just like, I don't know. The art's just like bonkers. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that he's scaling up, on the wall, on the roof. He has his rope ready. Even the feather on the hat looks on point. I love these spoiler card. I love the art, and even the card it's solid. Like, uh, even for an uncommon, a shift 3, 3/5, with a fairly relevant ability depending on the deck.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and there's some shift targets for it. I mean, it has the ability to make an impact right away. And gosh, Nicholas Cole. So for those who don't know, John Lauren and Nicholas Cole are really, really good friends, and we know they've collaborated in a couple of Arcana cards. And I
Mhm.
feel like Nick took a look at John's Robin Hood in the last set, or is it 2 sets ago? Inklands. Yeah, it was Inklands, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, on the raft. And he said, okay, I see what you're doing. Watch this, and had to take it up a notch because God, this is cool. All right.
I'm sure there's some sort of level of competition between artists to see who gets the best art out there. But all of them recognize like the good art from everyone, so it's
Yeah,
really good to see these cards.
I totally agree. This is super cool. All right. Um, hey, Aaron.
Hey,
Hey,
everybody.
Aaron.
I'm gonna turn on
Hey,
Aaron's
Marco.
microphone.
Oh,
I'm gonna turn on Aaron's microphone so you go here.
hey.
And all right. So I suppose we should get into the. Oh yes. Thanks, question for pointing out. It is the great illuminary in the background instead of the moon. Super cool. Kind of like a whole new world. Same thing. Moon instead of the
Yes.
or illuminary instead of moon. Super cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna plug in my baby monitor here. Um, this is important. It's important parent stuff. Okay. So all right. So we need to talk about Bucky. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of discussions on this. So before I do, to kind of tee this up, when the Bucky errata was announced, there were a lot of feelings all over the interwebs. We saw them on various social media platforms. And
Yes.
so we sent out a note to some of our followers and we said, hey, if you have thoughts on the Bucky errata and would like to participate in a small project, send us like your one word, response to this errata. And we had some fans who had some thoughts. So we got a couple thoughts here. So this is what.
Okay.
Overkill.
Excessive. Floodgates.
Meh.
Right, how to describe the Bucky errata in one word? I could go with that word, but I could go with another word. But there's 3 or 4 more words that I really like to describe this. But I'm just going to go with good because that's what it is.
Okay. And before we address that, I did get one other. I got a lot of comments and emails. I got one other that I really liked. Somebody sent me just a link, a YouTube of somebody I knew, so I clicked on it, a YouTube link, and it sent me to this video. All right. So we won't play the crab rave too much, but needless to
The
say,
only thing I can think of when I hear that song is the image of Liam doing Beat Saber. I have a video. I'll try to share it one time. It's amazing. Liam doing Beat
See,
Saber to that song.
and I was thinking of Merlin Crab vibing to that song.
that's
Oh,
right.
there you
Merlin
go.
Crab is no more Bucky. Merlin Crab is in it. So needless to say, there's a lot of emotions, and I think it's kind of I don't think it's polarizing per se. I think you
Mm,
have people. I think there's a few people who were kind of upset by it, kind of the Bucky fans, but I think by and large, most people were happy about it. But what was actually polarizing was not that they did it; it's that they chose to um errata the card strongly instead of ban it. I don't know. I'm going to pull up here. I failed to load it up, so I'm going to pull up here the errata so people can see it. But while I do that,
Yes.
Margot, what are your thoughts on kind of the approach here?
So I have two different opinions here, and I there might not be super popular. So do you want my thoughts as a judge or just my personal like take on it?
Let's start with you as a judge, but before I do that, let's go over for folks because I neglected to do that. Do you want to describe for folks what they did to the card, the 3 changes?
Absolutely. So the three changes were the first change was the change of cost. So it went from 2 cost to a 3 cost, still inkable. The second change was the elimination of the keyword word. Sorry. Uh, so they eliminated ward from the card. No more protection for Bucky, and then one of the biggest changes too was the change of wording on uh, the Floodborn part. So now it reads, whenever you play a Floodborn character, if you use Shift to play them, each opponent chooses and discards a card. Before, you just had to play a Floodborn character, and that was sufficient enough for your opponent to discard the card. Now you actually have to shift a Floodborn character. So those are the three changes that we saw on the card.
Yeah. All right. So now that we have that out of the way, because I have my thoughts, but Marco, as a judge, first off, what are your thoughts?
As a judge, I believe it was completely necessary to deal with the card in some sort of way. Um, I think the errata was definitely one of the ways to go for this card, especially if you don't want to take the card away from players. If you don't want to just like try to ban it and for the card not to be usable, like it's a great option for that, right? So it gives players a different meta to play with, even if it's like a slight period of time, or even if it's just one Lorcana challenge.
Yeah. Okay, before we get your next opinion,
Yes.
because we're gonna dive into this a bit, I am gonna bring in our next guest here, who I'm super excited is joining us fresh from a coaching session. So I really appreciate him jumping in here to give us his thoughts. But he's this individual has been an outspoken critic, I think. We'll ask him if that's a fair assessment of Bucky and the meta, and has been saying something needs to be done for a while. So we wanted to get his thoughts. So we'll welcome in Brennan DeCandio.
Hi, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I have to say, for those watching it in the green room, like the people in the green room like can't really tell when I'm about to pull them in, and I've surprised people before. So I always do like these long intros, so if people are watching, they're like
hopefully
ready.
you can figure out that it's you that we're about to bring in from the green room.
I don't know. I'm just, doing
Just ready to
something. I
go.
don't know. At least I'm not eating my giant box of pretzels right now. That'd be annoying.
That's true.
I mean, if you were
mid-bite.
like,
Okay, fine.
Um,
Giant thing.
So I'm sure everybody watching is familiar with Brandon. Brandon's a very high level competitive player and cosplayer. But
One time.
it's gonna stick in my brain
One
forever
time
because it was
so
so
far.
good.
That's fair.
It's so good. But Brandon, so you've been talking about Bucky for a while as as it being a problem. And Marco just mentioned, as a judge, he thinks it needed to be dealt with. It was such a problem in the meta. What are your thoughts on kind of the reaction?
Yeah, my preference is to have been banned, but that's just a random little bit of it. But yeah, it's something that when we first saw it, it's a kind of card where when you make this kind of card in design, I think you would probably have to give yourself some rules when designing future cards to not violate. And I feel like they may have done that for the first three sets, as far as not violating the rule of no cards that are Floodborn that cost 3, and also no cards that are shiftable for 0. But they happen to do both of those things in set 4. So that was a little surprising for me to see. And while you can certainly point to problem cards like, say, Diablo or any of the 3-cost Floodborns as like, well, those are the problem cards, not Bucky. You don't limit your design space so much so that you just don't get to make fun cards like that because it makes sense to do so. And it did. And I think the cards that they made are kind of cool. So having a card that kind of amplifies all of those cards was more the problem. And Bucky was the primary cause of it. But yeah, it's more about what Bucky's pushed out than the damage it actually does in the metagame. You kind of don't see all the damage it really did when you play right now. You see a lot of decks that are kind of what's left as to what you can play and be competitive in the face of this. But I would probably be willing to bet a large sum of any type of pride and or money, if you want to get to that when Ravensburger was designing the set 4 metagame in their heads, they had a far greater set of decks they considered to be viable than what we're seeing here now. So yeah, just for that whole space in of itself is why we're seeing it. And I'm glad it's being, I'm going to call it banned because this thing I have in front of me is not really a card I'd ever consider playing under most circumstances. So for whatever sake, should have been printed as this to begin with, but probably should have just been banned and forgotten. And then made this card that we see to the right in a future set as Bucky something else. That kind of, hey, we probably should have done this to begin with as a joke or something and put it in set just because. But yeah, I'm glad it's gone.
Interesting. Marco, you had another. You offered half your opinion, then you said you offered your professional judge opinion. You were going to offer something else. So I'll let you respond quick.
Now my personal opinion. So of course, everybody it's mostly on the same playing field that we knew that the card had to be dealt with somewhere or another, right? Now the way Ravensburger dealt with it, that's when the conflicting opinions start occurring, right? So I've heard a lot from a lot of players throughout these past weekend, especially with set champs. Like I had plenty of players' opinions being brought up, and no one's really sure on how it should have been dealt with. There's some players that are on the well, they should have banned it like altogether. There's a few players that think the errata was sufficient and it's good enough and like perfect. Then there's people like me that think that it should have been restricted to a one-off per deck. I know, it's an unpopular opinion, but I have my reasoning. Okay,
It's the worst of all the
so
worlds. Sorry.
I know. So I think, well, obviously Ravensburger didn't want it to ban it because they don't want to have players opening their packs and finding a card that they cannot play anymore. Especially when new markets are considered, right? Like when like new languages are being considered and like printing costs are still there, right? But the thing is, they're still a business. So they're gonna have to reprint the card. They're gonna have to send it out through distribution or through like the local game stores, or they're gonna have to include it in a deck or something. They're gonna have to include it somewhere so that players can get that errata card into a physical like paper card, right? Instead of just looking at it on the app. That's going to cost them money. That's ultimately going to cost them a lot of money. So the middle ground was to limit it to a one per deck. That way they don't have to change anything on the card. They don't have to like change anything on future printings. And that way, like the players that already have the card can still play with the card without feeling like it's completely gone from their decks. It also provides a like a middle again, it's a middle ground. I know it's not perfect, but it's a middle ground where it's going to be like in the deck it's going to be fairly inconsistent because you're not going to aggressively mulligan as much to find a one off in your deck. um so I think like in that respect would be the perfect middle ground, especially if you start considering the cost that it's gonna bring in to send new versions of the card to like local game stores and to future printings. So again, it's not a popular opinion. It's just my opinion. Um, I think banning it might have been also a good way to deal with the card, but I understand that Ravensburger doesn't want to um, give a bad player experience when you're opening your packs. You open a Bucky, you don't want to feel like, well, I can't use this card anymore. So I understand the errata. I believe it's setting a bad precedent in the game. But again, it's complex, it's hard. I know like each card game has their own way to deal with problematic cards, um, and with problematic metas, because Bucky shaped up the meta, this current meta. Bucky was essentially the card that dictated the whole meta. Even though the meta looks like a rock paper scissors meta, we know that everybody was focusing on, well, how am I going to deal with Bucky? What's the deck that I'm going to bring in to potentially like win against Bucky? So that's my take. I know it's not the most popular take, but it's a take.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do y'all think that there are going to be issues in the future with like maybe newer TCG players going to tournaments or playing in their first competitive games, bringing a Bucky, not realizing or not understanding the errata and thinking the Bucky functions in the way that's written on the card?
I'm gonna go ahead and say no. They've already kind of, for their competitive scene or for the tournament scene in some way, have already kind of, I wouldn't say shot themselves in the foot, even though I sometimes feel like they have, with the set legality for the challenges being delayed. Because you can say the same thing for experience of someone who's new to the game. Here's as a challenge, and in a world where you don't have to sign up weeks in advance for a challenge, you can just go to one, which may exist in the future. Imagine someone who's new to the game, bought a couple packs and decks and wants to go there, and they have a set 5 deck in, I guess in Toronto, and they can't play it. And they've gone out of the way to make sure that people know the legality of cards. I think because of that, especially we saw with Atlanta being 2 weeks into set 4, where we already had that going. So no, I don't think it should be a problem. I mean, it may be a problem, but they've already accepted that as a knowledgeable problem that they're going to address directly, I feel, or they have to, because they did that. But hopefully next year's planning with the set releases and challenges is not such that we get these formats where we're playing with, we can't play with cards that we can hold in our hands. That's a general rule for a lot of card games nowadays, is if it can be in your hand, it should be legal, kind of thing. So
Yeah. I will say, so first, to answer Becky's question, who's watching at 1 a.m. in England, so I feel like we have to, or from the UK, so I feel like we have to address her question. It's not that players can't play the card. A banning is an option in many TCGs where the company just says, hey, you can no longer use this card in a certain format. But in this case, they just changed the language on the card. So now all versions of Bucky have to be played as if they're the new version of this card, which you can see here. The other thing I want to address, so many people talking in the chat about, them nerfing multiple cards and what happens when there's so many cards nerfed that you lose track or et cetera. Ravensburger said, kind of in their response, that this is a one-time thing. It's a unique situation in their mind because, as Marco indicated, they are back printing all previous sets for new markets. And they didn't specify which ones those are, but we know, I think it was just announced in China and Japan. I know they're releasing in Mexico. I think Brazil's. And so there's a whole bunch of markets that they're printing all the first sets for, and they didn't want to ban a card that would be in the packs. So that was their reasoning. And so in the future, perhaps an errata like this strong, or even an errata period, may not be what they do. Maybe they go straight bans, because really that's what it took off the table in their mind, was bans.
I mean, erratas will still theoretically be a thing if there continue to be typos on cards.
Well, typos, yeah. But grammatical, but gameplay issues. Perhaps that banning is the answer in the future to this, because that's really what they indicated was off the table due to the emerging markets. I don't know.
They'll eventually catch them up, I think. The markets. I think it's a slightly accelerated release schedule than we've seen. They'll eventually catch up. Some other TCGs have had that before. Some Pokemon variants have had it where like they're behind in the past, not recently, where they're behind on set releases in the States or otherwise in other languages, so the Japanese. And they've caught everyone up to the same page, I believe, but don't quote me on that. But I imagine that's what they're doing with this, probably releasing a set every 2 months until we're equal in that sense. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. What was my other? Oh, so the other question, like, why do you think all three, was one of those enough? Like, if you changed Bucky's wording so that it was just on shift, is that enough to make the card,
like if you kept Ward,
just
not
great? No, still problematic.
I think it needed at least 2 changes. So taking away Ward and adding the shift in order to trigger the ability might have been enough. But I feel like a combination of 2 would have been enough.
The cost is a huge thing. I think, in all honesty, I think they could have left Ward and did the other 2 things. I don't think they could have removed Ward and left it alone, however, even so. Because the main experience that they were describing was negative was the discard effect starting on turn 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really what the biggest thing was. No, and I guess touching on restricting, if I could just for a moment on that.
Yeah.
I don't I think that's the worst avenue, even more so than banning it, because it does not change the player experience when it comes up. You can't build your deck around that consistently in any kind of way, and when it does come up, it feels just as bad as if it wasn't changed at all from the opposing side. So that's why you don't restrict things like that, because it doesn't change the experience. It just makes it less frequent and actually feel worse because you knew it was actually a very small outlier that could happen. It makes losing feel even worse. So that's my knock against restricting, because it doesn't change. It makes the experience worse on both sides.
Got it.
I can see that. I can see both sides. Because on the one side with restricting, you're not banning the card, so it's still available, but you're also like, I don't know, reducing the frequency. On the other hand, to your point, Brennan, I played this weekend in a set championship, my only one that I managed to register for, and I boldly went in with Emerald Amethyst because it's my deck, and I was ride or die, and I played Emerald Steel, Ruby Amethyst, which I 2-0'd, and then Emerald Steel. And I managed to steal games with from a couple of those, but I ended up 2-2 after getting wrecked by Bucky. But when you're playing that deck, I mulligan for certain cards. I'm looking for Cloud Kickers. I'm looking for things to kind of interrupt that Bucky flow or get Diablo off the table. And if there's only one Bucky in the deck, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm going to play as if that person is not going to get that card, because I have to play the odds. And then when they pull it, like you're not
It's
even
like a gut punch.
Yeah, you're not even ready.
Yeah, that's in general personally the only place that restricting's ever been that made sense to me is in Vintage and Magic, where they can't ban a card because that's the only place you can play the card, period, where it's just every card ever to exist in Magic, and they're just restricted because of power level, and it doesn't matter because you have a million ways to search your deck for a card anyway, so you could probably find them anyway. But in other card games do restrict or limit, and they can use that to their advantage as far as gameplay goes. But for a game like this, and for as new as we are to the game, it's like you mentioned, Errata is a very dangerous precedent to set in physical card games. It is.
Yes.
It is terrifying to do in digital card games. I've worked in a digital card game where we had to Errata things or just nerf them. And in some ways, that's just a dangerous precedent to even have, even if you can do it easily. When you can't do it easily and there's physical implications, it's a huge mess. And I hear their desire to not affect potentially a set 2 metagame that people want to play Bucky in, kind of thing, having it be banned. But let's just say, hey, you can play with it as is until set 4, then it's banned or something like that. Like there are a bunch of other more elegant ways than to change the words on a physical card, which you can't do. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was a tough spot for Ravensburger. I do not envy their position, because, I mean, plenty of people wanted the card banned or dealt with, and they had the job of like coming up with a solution for it. So I do not envy their team, because it was absolutely a hard decision to make. I do not think they made this decision, or they took this decision lightly. Um, I'm sure they had plenty of feedback, and like the team went back and forth talking about it. Um, but yeah, like again, I myself, I'm excited to see what the Toronto meta looks like without Bucky. Like it's gonna be a world without Bucky, or for the most part without Bucky. So we'll see what the new decks are, if old decks are dominant enough to like take the wins instead. So I really want to see that meta. I'm excited to see, even if it's for a week, I want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other potential way that I'm glad they didn't go down the road of for dealing with Bucky was kind of warping their future designs to be able to handle something like that, because that's even more dangerous as far as like power creep goes, and also it can make really wonky wording on cards.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm scared for if they ever make a card that says ignoring ward, do this, because that just defeats the whole purpose of the card, like the effect. Like some card games, like, yeah, this thing has ward, and this effect is like, well, ignoring ward, do this against that kind of card is a way to answer those things, but that's just not an elegant way to deal with those kind of cards. And I don't want them to make a card that is good enough to answer a 1/1 with ward on turn 2. I just don't want a 1/1 ward on turn 2 be able to sit there. So here's the easiest way that they could probably actually fix Bucky than all this nonsense that they did. They just have its line of text be if exerted, and you play a Floodborn, do this.
Oh,
That'd be
that
the easiest thing in the
Yeah.
world, just because you could then challenge it, and then okay, I got something out of it. I can maybe save up to do 2 things in one turn. That's cool. Or I have to fight to protect mine, or maybe you play any rush character. I don't know. Errataing is very rough, and the less you can do to make it more impact, the better. And that's something that it didn't do, and I was a little confused by, but sure. I'm gonna turn the light on really quick. Sorry.
That's right. But
I have
on that
natural light,
note,
but I was better.
while you're doing that, on that note, Marco, any closing thoughts before we switch to our next segment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to again. I'm just gonna reiterate on my thoughts. So I'm excited to see how the meta shapes up with an Errata Bucky. Um, I am excited for next week because we have the Lorcana challenge in Dallas Fort Worth. So yeah, like I am excited to see that. And I was excited to talk to Brennan.
Yeah.
Actually, like he might not know it or he might not remember, but we've had some runnings in Magic competitive scene at like RCQs and a few invitationals. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm bad. I'm so many. I apologize now, but yeah, no, I'll remember next time. I'm
you're
sure.
good.
That's so
If you tell me when and what you're playing, I might remember it. But like that's in all honesty,
So
when I play against people, I look down at the board half the time, not just because I need to focus on what's going on. Now I barely see people's faces when I play against them.
oh yeah, like the hyper competitive like scene focus. It's
Yeah,
true. Yes, you don't look past the board.
All right.
not often.
Thanks, Marco. And thanks for running an amazing LGS. And thanks for everything you do for Lorcana.
Thank you. And
Thanks.
I'm really happy to be here. So I'm gonna log off, but continue on the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, Marco. All right, Brent's going to hang out with us for a little bit. We're super excited for this next segment. We know you're a huge Disney fan, and I don't know about you, but I'm super excited to meet Bob. We're going to bring him in here shortly. I've got a short intro video. We have some camera issues, but we're going to see if we can figure it out. But in the meantime...
Your John Hancock, please.
Why have I been brought here?
All right, that was just a short video. Bob, can you hear us?
I hear you. Can you see me?
I can't
We
see. We can't see
can't.
you.
I see me great.
Oh, that's so weird. You know,
no.
it worked briefly. I saw you log in and log off in the green room, and then you popped in once, and then you were there, and then it stopped working. And I don't.
And when I first logged on, I heard you guys fine. Then all of a sudden you went quiet, and I was like, okay, maybe they turned their sound off. And then you said you couldn't see me, and I'm like, okay, now I see me. Now shouldn't you see me if I see me?
I would
One
think so.
would think.
I would think so.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, let me
Wonders of
let
a
me
live
hide
show.
you, and then I'm gonna bring you back, and I bring you back, and no,
But you can hear me.
I can
We
hear you.
If there's no other applications you have open that's using the camera, just that's the only thing that sometimes it can show both, but it won't display it to one. But I don't know. I have that issue with Discord a lot.
The wonders of a live show, everyone.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Doing it live.
we're doing it live. Oh man.
Well, welcome to the show, Bob.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for having us. I feel like maybe it's a little.
You're having me. I'm not having you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's wow.
So yeah,
For being
It's-
here.
it's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
Hopefully we figure this out. But in the meantime, I guess if we're gonna not have audio or video for a voice actor, I guess it's better to have the.
I was about to say,
Oh,
yeah,
totally.
It's kind of on brand for us.
Yeah, if I were into mime, this would not be good.
Yeah.
No, that is true. I mean, I guess we'll ask you some questions, Bob. But if you want to try to troubleshoot anything, more than welcome. Otherwise, we can just carry on.
Yeah, let's just carry on. I don't even know what else to do because I can see me fine.
Next time, I promise. Next time we'll tech check this ahead of time. It's
All right.
something. Restream is a. Usually it works. It works great 90% of the time. But
Well, there's that 10%.
is crazy. But anyway,
90% of the time, every time.
right?
Yep. Right.
So we did a small little intro video, but I have to tell for everybody watching, like if you're not familiar with Bob's work, like you actually are, because I guarantee you've seen multiple shows or movies or properties or something with Bob's voice in it. The range you have is incredible, Bob. I guess we have a ton of questions, but I guess right off the bat, I want to ask this like really broad question. What's it like being a voice actor and having to bring life to these, semi-lifeless characters?
Well, it's great. I mean, it's different today than it was when I got into the business because COVID, forced us all to build home studios and work from home. We never did cartoons from home. People would do commercials and promos and narrations from home, audiobooks certainly, but we wouldn't do cartoons. And then within 10 days after the lockdown, I would show it to you, but you can't see it. I've got a studio. I'm even pointing to it, and you don't even know I'm pointing to it. But yeah, I had to upgrade my home studio to broadcast quality, and I've worked outside my home studio maybe 5 or 6 times in almost 4 years, and I actually love it. But the life of a voice actor is fun. I don't have to shave. I don't have to memorize. I don't have to wear shoes. I do wear pants, but they're usually sweats or shorts. And it's a blast. You never know what you're going to do. One day you're a stuttering pig. The next day you're a squirrel. So it's just a lot of fun.
Do you have a favorite character? I'm sure you get asked this question a lot, but of all the characters you brought to life, do you have a favorite one?
Oh, definitely Porky Pig, because that's why I got into the business in the first place. I wanted to play that character since I was like 5 years old.
Are you serious?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I mean, I didn't know what that meant when I was 5 years old. My mom would tell a story that she'd be, it's Saturday morning, I'm watching cartoons, and she's in the kitchen doing whatever moms do in the kitchen. And she'd hear, Porky Pig on television say,
gosh, Daffy, what's going on?
And then she'd hear me go,
gosh, Daffy, what's going on?
And she'd be like, wow, that's interesting. And I was an obnoxious child. I would be in school and a teacher would ask me a question and I would answer like Porky Pig, which is not something that most parents want their child to do. But we moved to LA when I was about 14, and I just picked up the phone and I called Mel Blanc and I crashed a recording session and I started studying acting and voiceover and improv and got my first agent and my first job about a week out of high school.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, a week out of high school?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, then I had 5 years of survival jobs because you're not going to be a successful actor right out of high school. But yeah, I got I lucked into a really good agent right away. You guys are very young, but there was a guy named Casey Kasem who was a big voice actor and DJ and promo announcer. He was Shaggy on Scooby-Doo for people who know cartoons. And through a mutual friend of the family, he introduced me to his agent and he signed me. And he was like the top voiceover agent in the world, and I didn't know that. I had no idea what I got it myself. This guy represented Mel Blanc and June Foray and Orson Welles and Casey Kasem, so I kind of hit the jackpot right out of the gate.
Hey, do you know Casey Kasem? I think of the weekly top 40. That's where my
Sure.
brain
Yeah.
So when you get a character, and I do want to transition to Bucky because it was like
Sure.
a way to bring us here. But when you get a character, do you get some sort of direction on what that character is supposed to? Let's say it's not a character that exists, like Porky, whose voice is
right.
Known, but do you get some sort of direction on what they want that character to sound like, or are they kind of like, hey, here's the vibe, what you got?
Every audition's different. I'd say 99% of the time you get the audition script from your agent, and this guy was Baby Hercules. I was very good. Yes, I was. 210. Do I have 210 credits? I'm reading my life on your screen. This is so cool. I wish you could see me. So you get the auditions from your agent. It'll have a picture, a brief description, and about a page or two of dialogue. And from that information, you come up with something. It's not. I teach animation voiceover, and what I tell my students is all characters have a voice, but not all voices have character. So you need to find layers of personality and interest and relationships with their scene partner. There's a lot going into it. People who just, hey, I do funny voices. Everyone tells me I do great voices. Nobody cares. that you can do great voices. What they care about is, are you a brilliant actor? Can you bring this character to life? Now, the way I got Bucky was kind of interesting. Can I tell that story?
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
And if people have, I've done a million interviews. I've told the story a lot. So if I'm boring you, just go do something else for a moment. So the lovely folks at Disney had hired me a lot, and to the point where I'd say the majority of the films I've done for Disney, I didn't audition for. They just said, "Hey, you're working on Thursday. You're playing Baby Hercules." I mean, it's stuff like that. Okay. So I get this call. Oh, well, let me go back. Before it was called The Emperor's New Groove, it was called Kingdom of the Sun. It was a totally different movie, and there's a wonderful documentary on it. It was about Inca slaves, and I was voicing slaves. And very, very different movie. And then like a year or so later, I get a call, "Hey, that Kingdom of the Sun, you're no longer playing a slave. It's called The Emperor's New Groove right now. It's a wacky comedy, and Disney wants to know if you can come in and play a squirrel." And I said, "Sure, why not? Absolutely, of course I can." And the director's name was Mark Dindal, and I walked in, and he said, "Okay, so." And by the way, when you do voices for an animated feature, you don't get the script. You only see the pages you're in when you get to the studio. I had no idea what this. I had no idea what this film was about.
You were like cold reading it.
But that's how you do it. That's how you do every movie. Every movie, it's not even a cold read, it's a frozen read. I mean, they will put the pages on like a little piece of cardboard, put it up on your podium, and you work on that page until they're satisfied, then they give you another page. But just like if you were doing a live action movie, you don't shoot in chronological order. On the first day, you might do the middle. And on day 2, you might do 3/4 through. And on day 4, you might do the beginning. So it's all out of order. I only worked on the scenes I was in. So Mark tells me that there's this character named Kronk, played by Patrick Warburton, who speaks squirrel. And he says, "Squeak, squeak, and squeak, squeak." And the squirrel understands what he's saying. And the squirrel kind of chatters, makes some kind of noise. And he translates what the squirrel's saying. And I said, "Do you want me to say squeak, squeak, and squeak, squeak?" And he said, "No, we need you to create a language, and we need you to emote with this character." I said, "Oh, can I think about it for a few minutes?" And he said, "Sure." So I walked outside the stage, and the Disney studios, there are areas that kind of look like a park. So I'm sitting on a park bench next to a grassy area between the animation building and stage B, which is where they record. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, squeak, squeaking, squeak, squeak, squeaking, squeak. And I swear to you guys, a little squirrel came running down a tree, up to me, up on its hind legs, looked at me, and went, and I went, "Thank you." And I walked back in the studio. I said, "Mark, say squeak, squeak, and squeak, squeak." And he said, "Squeak, squeak, and squeak, squeak." And I went, and he goes, "Yeah, that'll do."
Perfect.
So I worked that day, and I guess they did a test screening, and the people that were watching the film, their comment cards were, "We love the squirrel." So they brought me back for more bits, and then they did a straight to video sequel called Kronk's New Groove, which I did. And then we did 3 years on a series called The Emperor's New School. So listen to all the actors out there. A small part can pay off.
It's funny. And there's a real.
Oh, I lost your volume. I can't hear you guys now.
Oh, what? Check 1 2. Hello.
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 That's what happened earlier. Can you still hear me? Nod your head yes if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can, but I can't hear you.
Yeah,
Unfortunate.
This happened earlier.
Let me bring you back in.
You're saying that as if you can hear us.
No.
So I'm going to log off and log back on because that worked before.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Don't go away. Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, that's an incredible story.
Yeah, and there's a real life Bucky out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the real life Bucky, I mean It's Disney magic, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh,
Can you hear us, Bob?
How about
Can you
now?
hear us?
Oh.
Oh no.
How about check?
Well, so we will, while we're waiting for Bob to come back in, we're going to bring in Carolyn, our quizmaster, who has some
Oh,
questions
gosh.
for Bob and really wanted to meet. Yeah, not quiz time yet,
Not quiz time yet.
but
I promise.
definitely wanted to
Hey,
meet
that's
Bob.
a snazzy new shirt you got there, Carolyn.
It sure is. I'm very excited it came today. Thank you guys.
Yeah, no, you had to have it.
Had to sport it since
There
I
are
got
not
it.
many of them out there.
I know.
So
I feel very
yeah.
special. But yeah, super excited to get to talk.
Oh wait, we might have a camera.
Oh, we had it for a second. We had it for a second.
Oh.
We had a camera for a second.
What is going on?
Hi, Bob.
Can you hear me?
We can
Yes.
hear you.
But see, now I
Can you
can't
hear
hear
us?
you.
Oh,
I'm going to try it again.
Huh.
oh
I'm going
no.
to try it again.
Okay.
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 Thank
Okay.
you. Thank
Okay.
you to the audience
Squeaker.
Squeak, squeaker, squeak,
for being
squeaking.
patient with us while
Oh,
we are
that's
dealing
great. But
with all
man,
technical issues.
that voice. So there's a real life Bucky out there.
Clearly.
Yes.
That's amazing. Who came up and inspired the character. So when I messaged Bob about this game, Bob had no idea that Lorcana existed. Got you. Hello?
Can you hear us now?
Bob.
Can you see me?
No.
No.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to try it on a different machine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to everybody for bearing with us.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Um,
We'll get there.
We'll get there eventually.
It's fascinating to hear him talk about that he was on the project before it was Emperor's New Groove. I had no idea because this is like one of my favorite pieces of Disney history, Kingdom of the Sun, and like this lost film essentially, because it was a completely different movie before it became Emperor's New Groove. So to hear him talk about that was so cool. Like my Disney history
knows
there,
about
brain
it.
just went.
Yeah. That's crazy. There was an Yzma song in there, correct?
Yes.
It's
Yzma had a
crazy.
song. Eartha Kitt got to sing. It's a travesty that she doesn't sing because she's an incredible singer.
That's right. All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
There we go, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
There he is.
Can you hear
Oh.
us?
We have an image now.
Now Bob is frozen.
Oh no.
Wrong movie.
Oh.
One day we will get this to work, everyone. One day.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Are you back?
Is he there? I
Can
think
you
he's
hear us?
frozen.
But now we can't hear you.
Now we can't hear him. Oh,
We can see
a
you.
little
We
bit.
can't hear you.
We cannot hear you.
Say something again.
I'm saying something again.
Yay!
Really?
Yeah. Video and audio.
It said, oops, lost connection.
Ah.
Oh, well,
But now,
we can see what
now
we
we're
can
here.
Yeah.
Now we're here. Now we're here. I'm holding my iPhone. Life is good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Bless you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob, for going through all of this.
Oh,
No,
we suffer for our craft.
Yeah. So the Buggy story was fascinating. We were talking about it when you were off screen and Empire of the Sun and all that. And also the character you created, we just have to bring this back to Lorcana for a brief second, just let you know that the character you created terrorized Lorcana players for months. So much so that there was the first card that they had to change in the game to make it less
Powerful.
good.
Yeah.
And see,
So-
I don't know what any of that means because he's the least terrifying character on the planet.
I know. It's like ironic. I don't.
So what is
Um,
terrifying about him in the game?
He makes you get rid of your cards.
Oh, so he's not terrifying. It's just the result of him being in your
Yes.
world. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Yeah. He makes
But he's
your,
adorable
your
still.
opponent get rid of their
Yes.
cards. Yeah. So if you're
Yes.
playing
I don't know if you can
against
see it, but
him,
I've got a little Bucky here in my office.
Oh my goodness.
That's so
Yeah.
precious.
Yeah.
that's so adorable.
I
So-
found that on eBay, I think, and it was like, I guess they make them in China, I think, and I popped a note to the toy owner and I said, hey, listen, I do his voice. How much does he cost? And she's like, oh my God, you can have it. So she sent it to me, but I had Bucky send like a little happy birthday something to her kids.
Oh, cute.
Oh my goodness.
Awesome.
That's so sweet.
That's great.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was gonna say because they don't exactly have a whole lot of Bucky stuff
Merch, nothing,
available from Disney, like or the
nothing,
parks or
nothing.
You don't?
anything.
Oh, yeah.
I would go to like the Disney stores and I'm like, yeah, I don't have any Bucky stuff, and they said it's the most common question they get. Like
Wow.
Really?
So the fans like him, but I guess the stores like because the movie did okay, but I think the fans like him more than the studio does.
Mm.
The Emperor's New Groove is really like a cult classic among Disney fans. Like it's not one of the well-hyped films. It's
Yeah,
not got any presence in the parks at all, but the diehard Disney fans love the movie. Like it's
and
a
it was
very
one of the
popular
last.
choice.
It was one of the last 2D
Mhm.
features that they did, so I liked it.
I mean,
I was actually gonna ask
Sure.
you, like, what did you think of the final film? Like once it was all put together, did you?
Well, again, it's like I only knew the scenes I was in. I didn't even know what an Ezra was. I had no idea. I didn't know what Kronk was. I just knew he spoke squirrel, and I loved it. By the way, I thought the film was great. Uh, the sound mixer at Disney, his name is Doc Kane. Guys, look him up on IMDb. He mixes. He's mixed everything forever, at least since I've been working for Disney, and he has outtakes of everybody who's ever worked there. So he hit one of the things he would like to push a button when if there's like a bad mood on the stage or people aren't getting it or what there's tension, he'll just push a button. He's got the most wonderful David Spade outtakes from The Emperor's New Groove. I can't even say what they are because they're not necessarily all PG rated.
G-rated.
Friendly.
of
Yeah,
course.
Disney approved. Yeah.
exactly.
Understandable.
So you never got to. So somebody sent in a question about, what was it like working with Patrick Warburton, but you never did, right? Like you just did your own voice, and that bounced off, his in this film. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so when you do an animated feature, if you're the first actor recording in the scene, then the director has to remember the other actors' performances. So when they direct you, they want to match continuity. If you guys look at the extras, like on Toy Story, and you see Tim Allen and Tom Hanks, they're not that was staged because nobody works together. Everyone's too busy. In fact, there's a thing called the Annie Awards, which are like the animation Oscars.
Yeah.
And I was presenting with Patrick Warburton, and I was backstage with him, and I said, Patrick, we've never met, but I play Bucky. And he looks at me kind of like confused, and he goes, I thought Bucky was a sound effect. And I'm like, well, first of all, dude, I'm in the credits, okay? And it's alphabetical. Look for the B. I know you're W at the very end, but check out the top, dude. Anyway, and so as we were presenting, I was Bucky and he was Kronk. And, and I'd be like, he says, the nominees for Outstanding Actor in Animated Feature. Sorry, animated TV series. So we had a fun time.
That's a great Patrick Warburton impression, by the way.
Patrick does one voice, but he does them really well. And he was really, really cool. He was really nice.
We're gonna have to see if that video's out there
Yeah, I
somewhere.
gotta find that.
on the
I'm sure
internet.
it is. It's got to be because I think they film the awards every year.
Yeah, I would say that's probably what the 2001 Annie's right after Emperor's New Groove.
No, it was years later.
Oh,
Years later. It was within the last. It was right before COVID, I think. It was within the last like 6 or 7 years.
It's amazing.
Could have been yesterday at this point. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
I'm
With
sure.
COVID.
Oh man, everybody! So everybody watching is on the credit or in the comments here is going through your IMDb and commenting on all their favorite of your roles. The Mogwai, Baby Tarzan.
Robot
Gosh.
Chicken.
Oh, somebody said Robot Chicken. Somebody said nobody's gonna mention all the voices Bob did for Robot Chicken.
Oh, well, Robot Chicken. The first one I did, they had me do Porky, but it was like gangster rap Porky. And am I allowed to swear a little bit on this podcast?
In the context of Robot Chicken, parents, this is your
Warning.
warning.
15-second warning.
Earmuffs.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
So at the end of that particular segment, Porky Pig said,
That's all, bitches.
So the first one I did was Porky, and then the other one I did Roger Rabbit. By the way, kids, if you've not seen Robot Chicken and you're under the age of 18, parents, please don't show them Robot Chicken until they're of age. It's on a segment of Cartoon Network called Adult Swim for a reason. And then I did all 3 Star Wars Robot Chicken specials as Luke Skywalker.
Oh my gosh.
Makes sense. You've voiced him in lots of video games.
I did.
Really? I didn't know
you
that.
gotten to meet Mark Hamill? Like, have the two of you?
Yeah, several times actually. Yeah, we're kind of buddies. In fact, they were. I forget which of the Star Wars movies they were premiering in Hollywood. I was just down there watching the pomp and circumstance, and I just texted him. I said, "Any chance you're going to this movie, and can I get in?" And he was like, "I'm not there. I promised to do a podcast, so I didn't want to disappoint the host. So yeah, he wasn't even there. But no, he's a really nice guy. I mean, I remember one time I was recording a Looney Tunes thing at a studio in Burbank called Salami. And when I walked in, he was there. And I said, "What are you doing?" He told me what he was doing. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing a Looney Tunes thing." He goes, "Oh, I'm dying to do a Looney Tunes." I said, "Oh, okay." So I walked into the studio and I said to my producer director, "Mark Hamill's out there and he's dying to do a Looney Tunes." And so they wrote him a part. But I wasn't in that episode. I was so bummed.
You're like, "Hey, I got him the job."
This is what I'm saying. At least put the pig in the cartoon.
Oh, man.
That's fabulous. I feel like you guys have, kind of similar vibes, and he's also done a lot of voice acting. So
Such a nice guy, and he's so talented. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
He does a lot of voice acting. I wonder how he made that switch. Like, I don't know.
You know what? I can tell you that I think I don't want to say that he lucked into it. I think the Joker was probably what he had done a cartoon in the early 70s for Hanna-Barbera called Genie, which was sort of like an animated knockoff of I Dream of Jeannie. And that was well before Star Wars. So he'd been doing voiceover work, but his work as the Joker just,
incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and that launched his career. That guy is brilliant.
Yeah.
So who would you say is because you're a big name in voice acting, but do you have like a role model or somebody that you would hold as like your voice acting grail, so to speak?
Well, certainly working today, I've got peers that I admire. D. Bradley Baker and Jeff Bergman and Candy Milo. I mean, there's some great voice actors out there. But when I got into the business, I studied animation voiceover for off and on for 10 years with a guy named Dawes Butler. And if people don't know the name Dawes Butler, he was Yogi Bear. He was Huckleberry Hound. He was Elroy Jetson. And I was very good friends with June Foray. And June was Granny with Tweety and Sylvester. And she was Natasha on Bullwinkle. And, a lot of these voice actors who did radio and cartoons and commercials, they also did a lot of uncredited cartoons. And, they just like, or even live action. If people watched I Love Lucy, reruns of I Love Lucy, there is an episode where little Ricky gets a dog and June was the voice of the dog, but she didn't get credit for it. She was Lucifer the cat in Cinderella, but she didn't get credit for it. But we're talking about, voiceover royalty. And she was a neighbor. And, I just got very lucky, you guys. I got into the business when at least I started studying when I was a kid. And I was the kid, I just recently turned 60 and I was 14 when I started, taking classes. So, and they didn't hire kids back then. They do now, but they didn't back then. And so everybody knew the kid. Everybody knew the kid who wanted to be Porky Pig. So people kind of took me under their wing. It was really kind of nice.
That's amazing. Bob, I know we had you for half an hour and you fought through some technical difficulties, but we're
I can stick around, you guys, if you need me to. I feel bad about the tech. Unless you guys have a schedule to keep, but I felt bad about the tech.
We have a little bit of time. Can we ask you just a couple more questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, in that case, so we did,
Great.
I was all ready, but we did have right off the bat, you know, when you first joined, there were a bunch of folks who jumped in like immediately when you came on and said, "Oh my goodness, I've always wanted to be a voice actor. Like this is one of my dreams or whatever."
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for anybody, maybe even like mid-career or later on in life, who's looking to perhaps, you know, take on some voiceover work?
Well, it's called voice acting with a capital A. It's not, for what I do, honestly, guys, it's not about how many voices you can do. It's about what kind of an actor you are. So I would say study acting, study improv, and then study voiceover. Every genre of voiceover that you're interested in, animation, games, commercials, promos, narration, audiobooks, every genre requires its own training, its own demo. And its own marketing. For animation, you kind of need to live in LA, and you kind of need to be SAG-AFTRA, and you need a really good agent. But to do other things in voiceover, you know, commercials, narration, audiobooks, you can live anywhere. But you do today have to have a broadcast quality home studio. Don't even worry about that right now. I mean, what I'm talking on my little phone, man, if you've got a recording app, that's your little studio that you can practice on. But if you want to practice commercial voiceover reads, read print ads from magazines. You want to practice characters, read comic books out loud. They're like storyboards. If you guys find me on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever, I advise actors all day long, you know, on different voiceover pages and groups and whatnot. But, you know, go to talent agents' websites, Atlas Talent, DPN, CESD, SBV, AVO, and just listen to the actors' demos. You got to be that good or better if you want to stand a chance to work. But, you know, when I was a kid, I called Mel Blanc at home. I recorded the conversation. It's on my website. That's completely illegal. You're not supposed to record people on the telephone. But it's been a long time. I think I'm okay. Well,
I was going to say, I'm not sure it was illegal back then, but it
no,
definitely
it was totally illegal back then. Yeah, it was totally illegal. But he's been dead since 1989. I think I'm okay. But during the course of the conversation, he's like, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 14." He goes, "Yeah, it's awfully hard to get into." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to hear about how hard it is." I was like, "Did you need an agent?" He goes, "Yeah, I did." So, you know, I was always very business focused. I was always very driven. I was always very passionate about this. You don't have to do this for a living, guys. You can just do it for fun. You can do, you know, fan dubs, things like that. But if you really want to do this for a living, yeah, there's a handful of us that got to do it, and the majority don't. But that's like anything in the arts. The majority of who want to be dancing on Broadway aren't going to do it. The majority who want to be a fine artist aren't going to do it. But a handful are, and you never know if you're going to do it unless you try. So I do suggest, boy, give it a shot if you want to try.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I love that. I mean, yeah.
Brennan, did you want to hop in at all?
No, I'm enjoying listening. It just sounds like it's a combination of being very good at your craft and also getting a little lucky. So it's better to be Bucky than good.
Yeah, luck is involved in anything in life. Right timing, knowing the right people, all that stuff. But let's be honest. If you meet the most influential agent, casting director on the planet, but you're not very good or you're not ready, it doesn't matter who you meet. But boy, they hold auditions. I have to audition every day. They hold auditions every day because they're looking for the next great thing. Because they could easily just call me or Debbie Derryberry or Dee Baker and just say, "You're working next week." But they want to see who else is out there.
Yeah, that's fascinating. We
What?
did have. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carolyn.
I was gonna say I have just one more question. What project do you have like the fondest memories of, or the best stories from that you could tell us?
Oh, that's such a hard question because I've got so many, and I'm going to hang up from this call and go, "I forgot. I should have told them." The Emperor's New Groove. The Emperor's New Groove one is good. Oh gosh, well, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you. Do you guys? There's a show I do called The Bad Batch, which is
Yes.
Oh,
We
Star Wars
love that
show.
Love
show.
Bad
yeah.
Batch.
I mean, Disney fan,
All right.
Star Wars fan,
Okay.
the Venn
All right.
diagram is almost a circle.
All right. So I play this character Lama Su, who's a bad guy, and he's very cold. He's very calculated. I got to move really close to the mic because when I do his voice, it's about right here, very calm and cool and collected. And you probably are looking at my nostrils right now.
No forehead.
Perfecto.
That's amazing.
You never really know what he's thinking because he just sounds very mysterious. The truth of the matter is, I don't understand a damn thing that's happening. So my vagueness in my performance is my vagueness in understanding what the heck's going on. But I will tell you that. Okay, see, that's Alexa. She pops in every once in a while just to say hi. It's a live broadcast. She never is going to say anything salacious, so I didn't have to worry. Usually, it's like turn on the oven. I got a script for one episode, and I was like, well, I'm going to read up on this, and I did. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Okay. And we start the session, and the director goes, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? He goes, no, you sound too connected. Where's this energy? I said, well, I read that. You've lost everything. No, stop it. Okay, so I got trouble for doing my homework.
That's one of
Sound clueless.
That's one of my new favorite stories. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
You did something. I don't know what it is, but something's not right, Bob.
Oh, I know. I thought I was being such a good boy.
Yeah. So can we ask you for, I don't know how often you get asked to do voices, but we didn't want to sit here and ask you to do a bunch of voices, but we've had one request in the chat like 8 times.
Yeah.
And it won't go away. And it's Speedy Gonzalez.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Hola, señor. Speedy Gonzalez, the fastest mouse in all Mexico.
That's not when I get that often. I usually get Porky, I get Tweety, I get Sylvester Jr., but Speedy Gonzalez, I don't get that often.
I don't know why. Like it popped up in the chat, and then people kept demanding Speedy.
Okay, well, there you go.
I know we've got a lot of Floridians and Texans in the chat, so that might have something
gotcha.
to do with it.
All right.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah, apparently. The fact that you can recall all of those, by the way, just like that is super impressive.
Well, it's what we do. I would imagine if you're talking to, I don't think you have to say to Barbara Streisand, you remember how you sang the way we were? She's going to remember how she sang the way we were. We remember how to do our characters. I won't necessarily. Now, this is interesting because I'm doing San Diego Comic-Con next week or like next weekend or weekend after. And when I do panels, people ask us very specific questions about things that I don't watch my work. I rarely watch my work. I've never played a game I've been in. So don't ask me a very specific question, and I don't want to insult them, but I'm like, guys, you're talking about 2 hours in my life 20 years ago at that recording session, and I've never seen that episode. And I try to use the comparison to a house builder. They may remember the house, but they don't remember every doorknob. They don't remember every window or every shingle. So I'm not really good at remembering the specific jobs I've done, but I definitely remember the characters because you do the characters more than once.
I did finally have a question.
Okay. Last question.
Okay. So Bob, you talked about how like Porky Pig was what you wanted to do as a kid. Do you remember when you got the call that told you where you found out you were going to be Porky Pig, and like what was that experience like?
So
finding out your dreams
that's a great question. I had just bought my first condo, and I was at a voiceover session, and my mother was house sitting for me because I had a couch being delivered. And she took the call from my agent that I booked the first Porky Pig job, which was Tiny Toon Adventures. And keep in mind, this was the lady who kept hearing I want to be Porky Pig since I was 5. So it was really cool that mom was the one that got the call. So that was the first time I got booked as Porky Pig. And I've had to audition and re-audition for him over the last 34 years. And not for every job, but for the big ones, because they can. That's what they do. But yeah, Mom got the call that I booked the first one, which was really, really cool.
That's
really
so
sweet.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. That's awesome that you got to share that experience with her.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. It was very cool.
Oh man, but this was so cool. Like a dream. So thank you so much, especially for the extra time, given the
My pleasure. All you
tech
guys.
issues.
I had such Jewish guilt that the tech wasn't working. So I'm glad we finally worked it out.
It's the platform's fault.
There
It's
we
the
go.
platform's fault, not yours.
But thank you for taking time with us tonight. It's been, I know, a real pleasure. The whole Lorcana community is both loves and hates your character simultaneously, and we all now adore you. So
I'm flattered. Now I have to do research and find out why I'm such a bad dude.
never thought you'd be a villain as Bucky, but
Not as Bucky. No. Well, he was mischievous. He was a little bit of a wise guy, but he wasn't evil.
Yeah. Anyway, but thanks, Bob. Have fun at Comic-Con. If anybody's
I will.
going, make sure you look up Bob. And thanks again, and love to have you back in the future if you can ever make it work in your schedule.
Let me know. I don't leave this room for 12 hours a day, so I would be delighted.
All right. Thanks so
All right,
much,
guys.
Bob.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Well, actually, we should have Bob say that's all, folks, on the way out. Can you do that?
no,
It's too late. You should have.
He's gone.
That was a pun.
That would have been awesome, though.
Yeah, that would have been fun. That was incredible.
Fantastic.
Wow. Okay. Well, how do we transition from that?
You gotta play Carolyn's intro music.
Yeah, let's just I mean, I don't know how to move. Let's just move on.
My Disney third
Oh, and I'm going to surprise them if they're not ready.
I'm not ready.
Surprise guests.
Supplies.
Oh man. Sorry, Carolyn, I cut you off. I was already there's a lag when I hit the video and when it plays. So like
You're good. I was just gonna say my Disney nerd heart is just like exploding right now, and that is the perfect lead-in for me into a trivia. Like, you've got me right on that wavelength.
Well,
hello, trivia contestants.
Yeah, hello, trivia
Ryan,
contestants.
I cannot hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear.
It's Ryan's fault again. Can you hear me?
Oh.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the
Can
important
we
part.
hear you, Sarah?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
we
we got
can
you.
hear you.
All right.
Ryan, can we hear
Ryan.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time I join Restream, like for some reason, like I have to change my audio settings, but totally not me in the green room fangirling over Bob Bergen like the whole time. Like I'm all like, do this. Like I was so excited.
Ryan's in the green room, like I'm dying. This is amazing.
I'm literally dying.
We just wanted to go through his like honestly, we could have gone through his IMDb catalog and just like been like voice. So many kind of voices. So we do have about 15 minutes left. So it's trivia time. We do this every week. For those who are here for the first time, this is our quiz master, Carolyn, the Illuminator quiz master, who every week joins us on our show to ask very challenging, sometimes, but at least interesting trivia questions for guests who come on the show. This week, our contestants are Ryan, RMB, from Team Labyrinth.
RMB.
From RMB.
From RMB.
From RMB. And the Lorcana librarian, Sarah, both friends of the show. Brennan and Aaron and I are like phone a friends for this. Although Brennan, if you really want to jump in, like you can wave your hands and jump in.
Is Brennan's cat a phone a friend, or
My hands
is
are
the cat
preoccupied,
on-
Right? Yes.
There's a little thread in here because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that excluding Liam and Aaron, all three of you have played the same deck colors.
I'll believe you.
Some sapphire steel going on here.
Yeah.
Brandon, you have super villain energy going on right now.
Hello, my kitty.
So
Ask me
got a
any question you
little-
want.
A little sapphire steel themed gauntlet. Tonight.
I'm wearing the
All right.
villain shirt too. Come on, man.
we have-
I have the black cat. Okay, that's really
So
what
here-
this is. I have
here's
two
the
of
rules
them.
tonight.
I was gonna say I have a herd.
We have 5 questions Caroline has tonight. If you all can get all 5 right, when they eventually get made, because they're being commissioned right now, we'll send you the Illumineers trivia pin. Lucana's trivia enamel pin. The 3 of you will send them to you. You'll just have to remind me when I get them in. So I'll forget.
Liam committing us to things that we are absolutely
And I'm
going to
terrible at
forget.
mailing things, but that's the prize if you all can get all 5 of these
Okay.
trivia questions right.
No
This
pressure.
will be
I
the
need
first-
these pins.
it'll be the first
Carolyn,
one.
I have seen some of your questions. Like, let's, come on, man. Like,
All right. Are y'all ready? All right.
That's
The
a
first
lot.
one should be pretty easy. So, Tinkerbell Giant Fairy is a key card to this deck. What 3 things does one need to fly with Tinkerbell and Peter Pan?
Brennan, Peter Pan. You are Peter Pan.
Pixie dust.
Uh-huh.
Happy thought.
Mm,
Faith and trust.
there it is.
Okay.
Faith, trust, and pixie dust.
There you go.
Very good.
Ding, ding, ding.
In One Jump Ahead, one of the most important songs in this deck, Aladdin is running from the town guard after being caught stealing. What does
a
he
loaf of
say?
bread.
What
Oh.
does he say is the only thing he steals?
I steal only what I can afford. Well, that's everything.
Well done. We'll karaoke up in here.
And extra bonus point because
You
Brian
sang it. Exactly.
It is the
Nice.
voice actor episode. He came correct.
That is
So,
true.
Is this your
unironically, I
audition
actually
tape?
used that song actually to secure a role in a musical theater production. So
Look at you.
Wow.
I had no idea, and I've known you for like 15 years.
yeah,
Are there videos of this out there?
yeah.
Excellent.
They're sitting in my living room right now.
We're gonna need to see those.
Next week on Let's Talk Lorcana,
The musical episode.
musical episode of. Okay, well, for the musical episode, we are lining up all our guests. So,
All right, question number 3. Cogsworth Grandfather Clock being on the board makes this deck tough to beat. What 3 things does Cogsworth suggest that Beast might get Belle as a present? Aaron might know this one.
I think you're giving me way too much credit.
Oh, okay. The look on your face suggested that you might
I-
because it's a humorous answer.
Oh no.
I'm gonna admit I've never fully watched that movie.
Wait,
Well, you
what?
know what your homework is.
I've been busy, okay? My daughter loves it, but I'm usually getting stuff and getting things together for us. So I missed some parts, I'm sure.
well, now this part will resonate, and when you
Yep.
finally stumble into this
Yep.
part, it will resonate.
I hate that I'm struggling on this one because like I've watched this movie so many times.
Right?
Some of the things
Exactly.
are things that you guys might get your ladies for.
I know
special
box of
occasions,
chocolates
and-
is one of them, yes?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm just
Flowers.
trying to
One.
visualize. Yeah.
I
And
wouldn't
the
guess
third-
flowers, no, because those
Flowers
are.
is the other one.
It's,
Really?
It's it's
And
flowers.
There's a third one that's hilarious because it's not actually something you would want to get her, but it is something that men often get. women.
Cookware, dishes.
Mm-mm.
No.
Man, where's the chat on this one? Chat.
The 3 things that Cogsworth suggests that Beast might get Belle for a present: flowers, chocolates.
Cleaning supplies.
Not.
No, not cleaning supplies, but it is something in that vein of something you don't actually want to get her.
Liam did give me a vacuum once, but I did actually want it. So
Say a broom, but
That is true.
I like how my brain just deleted this from existence. Let's see what is
It's not.
it?
Rochelle's right. It's not an object.
It is not an object. Oh, you're
It
getting.
is more abstract than that.
Yeah.
Can we phone Rochelle? Like, is that legal?
Yeah.
Like,
Rochelle is in the chat.
I know. Rochelle, help me out.
yeah,
Like,
they said it's a
um,
you
concept.
cannot keep.
Chappie is.
Is it a
cool.
walk on the beach?
Chappie's real close.
Oh no. Okay.
Promises? What? No.
Promises you don't intend to keep.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
I can hear him saying it now.
Promises you don't intend to keep.
Promises you don't intend
Yep.
to keep.
Yep.
Ooh,
That was
yeah.
a tough one.
Chat
Good stuff.
helped y'all out on that one.
Yep, we needed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's why chat
First
is here.
try.
Yep. First try.
We can edit that part out, right?
Never didn't have it. Never didn't know it.
Fix that
Okay. I have to edit out.
He was R&B. You were just testing them, right? You were just making
Yeah,
sure
exactly.
Also knew it. Yeah, absolutely.
I like how like
I'm
all of
anyway,
these
so.
all of these questions are like revolving around Sapphire Steel right now.
That's
And-
the point.
That's the
three
theme.
of you.
That's what she started out by saying because the
Oh.
three of us are known for.
You're all
Yeah,
Sapphire
the only
Steel
reason
focused.
why I'm known for playing is because I learned it from saw
We
a
had
list
the
with
Three
R&B and
Stooges.
it was too good.
I was still starstruck from Bob Bergen. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So the infamous Lucky Dime belongs to one Scrooge McDuck. What sci-fi actor most recently voiced Donald's Pennywise uncle?
Who?
I learned this like yesterday, and I'm super excited. Because somebody got
I'm phoning a friend.
somebody got Scrooge signed by him.
Really?
Yeah.
At Florida SuperCon?
Yeah, and I
That's
saw it,
so
and
cool.
I was like, this person signed the
Sarah,
card.
you're gonna kick yourself.
I'm not gonna
because
tell you all
I'm pretty
who.
sure you're a fan of the show.
I'm not gonna tell you all who it is.
That's why I'm like, I'm
Well,
racking my brain.
You're part of our phone a friend though. Like so.
No, he's
I'm
not.
not gonna tell you exactly who it is.
Who?
R&B, you don't look so good. You
Who?
should maybe go see the doctor.
It's
Who
I
plays
know
Doctor
Doctor
Who?
Who, but I don't know. I don't watch that show.
Oh,
I don't
no.
know. I don't know names. I'm bad with them.
I've never seen Doctor Who before.
That's why the actor name just
Is it?
No.
Is sometimes he not grouchy, but does he?
What?
Huh?
Is it David Tennant?
It is David Tennant.
It is
Okay.
David
I
Tennant.
was
I don't know how you got it there.
For her.
Because like I'm trying to think. Like I know what Doctor Who is. I've just never like actually watched it.
I know.
Yes,
I
it
know
is
what
David
it is.
Tennant. Well done.
Yeah.
R&B.
I'm guessing names of people. Is impossible.
Oh. Ooh, it's a tough one.
There's a
Like-
fun fact about Magica Dispel related to that. Tell us more.
Oh yeah.
That's a great question. I actually don't know what Rochelle is referring to because I must confess I have only seen sporadic episodes of the DuckTales reboot and not the whole thing, which is very unfortunate because it's like one of my best friend's favorite show.
That's so off-brand.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I've seen so much
We
of the
haven't.
original. Like
we
it's,
haven't
it's just
either.
a classic for me.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Ooh, these are
We're
getting
gonna,
tough.
we're
Okay.
gonna wrap it up real
Buckle
quick
up, everyone.
before this week in ink. All right. Belle, who has always been strange but special, was the focus of Disney's first foray onto Broadway. There, she was played by Susan Egan, who would later go on to voice what other sassy Disney heroine?
Oh,
Susan Egan.
Mm-hmm.
I know this one. I love her so much.
That is true. Erin is a huge fan.
I met her when I was a kid.
Really?
Yes.
She came and did a workshop at my university.
What else did Susan Egan do?
I know this. I've forgotten because I just looked up her resume.
So, if it helps with your timeline at all, Beauty and the Beast went to Broadway in 1994.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And shortly thereafter, she voiced another
She is
sassy Disney heroine, not princess, but
She
heroine.
is an acting god.
Oh, I know this.
She's an acting
There's
god.
no
Megara?
chance, no way you guys can't figure this out.
Say it again.
Megara.
Yes, it is
It's
Meg.
Yeah.
Megara.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought too. I could think of it.
It is
Yes,
Meg. There
it is.
Well done.
No chance, no way.
I remember hearing a little bit of it. Yeah, she's got a little bit of a not an accent, but just a certain distinction in her voice. I can think of it now because we watched Hercules not too long ago.
Such a good movie.
Nice. Well, nice one there. Someone with rotten judgment, Rochelle says. The prize for rotten judgment.
Okay, Liam.
All right.
Musical
No Susan Egan.
episode.
All right, is that it? Do we have one
That's
more?
it. That's all
Let's go.
time.
That was all.
You guys did it.
We got some
Yay!
clues.
Yay! 5 out of 5.
Little help from
Perfect
the chat.
score.
Little
A little
that's
bit, yeah.
everybody needs help from the chat. So it's really about, jumping on and giving it your best effort, and once I get those pins, we'll get them out. So
Y'all are actually the first adult winners of the pins, because last week was the
Woo!
first time Liam offered the pins, and last week was the kids episode.
Yay.
So.
yeah. Now I have to actually make the pins. So that's they're in the
You know,
works.
I just got a shadow box specifically for pins. So like, okay, like I've never been a pin trader or anything like that before, but because of Disney Lorcana, I have started. Well, I've also just like started collecting Disney pins now.
One of us.
You can like trade them. You can like trade them
I
at
know.
Disney too. Yeah, we did that a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
yeah.
awesome.
Nice.
You did like the pin trading with the cast members?
Yeah, we were at Disney. I live in next. Ryan lives maybe 15 minutes from where I do, so like he's not too far. But we're in Tampa area, so we're about an hour and a half from Orlando. But I was there. My daughter was having her dance competition at nationals, and afterwards we went to the nighttime Disney thing, so that was fun. But yeah, we did some of that. One of the people we were with had a whole backpack full of them too, so they were doing a lot of stuff like that. That's cool.
My lanyard is in the other room.
That's so cool. All right. Well, we have to wrap it up quickly here, so I don't get in trouble from our friends
Oh
over.
yeah, we got 3 minutes.
Yeah, from our friends over at This Week in Ink. So, Sarah R&B, thanks for jumping in to brave the trivia gauntlet.
Well done, guys.
Always welcome to, or always willing to do Disney trivia for sure. So.
Well, we'll take you up on that in the future. And
Nice.
Sarah, sorry we didn't get to you. Had a video question for Bob. We didn't get to it because Bob answered it before we
Yeah,
even got to
yeah.
it.
It's all good.
Unfortunately. So thank you all for joining us. Brennan, thanks for being here this whole episode and helping us out with the interview with Bob. And discussing Bucky. Can you any closing thoughts? And then how can people follow you?
Closing thoughts on just the whole thing. Oh, it was a lot of fun being here.
Life, Lorcana.
Better Bucky than good, and it's good to be here. Good to hang out. Thanks for having me. You can follow me Twitter and Twitch. I guess I haven't streamed a bit since in a bit, let's just say. But yeah, on YouTube at BDCandio7. My handle, first initial, last name, the number 7. But yeah, I'm usually responsive to anything sent and stuff out. So yeah, that's all I got.
Appreciate it. And I wasn't fair. I should have asked R&B and Sarah. Can you guys quick plug your handles so people know where to find you at?
Oh, they're there, aren't they?
I was like, you go first. No, you go first. I'm at Lorcana Librarian at Instagram and Illum Librarian at Twitter. I'm getting that up and running, and I'm dying to see R&B reveal a sapphire or a steel card in the future, since I like his steel sapphire deck. So I'm just gonna put that out there just because I see people in the chat, and I just wanted to just mention it real quick. Anyway.
Yeah, Labyrinths, highly recommend if y'all haven't checked it out yet on the Labyrinth channel.
Yeah. we just released Lab Rats episode 2. We've got Lab Rats episode 3 currently cooking in the kitchen right now, getting some editing done. So hopefully that'll be coming out soon. You can follow me on Twitter at r_m_bx. I'm going to Dallas. I'll be in Dallas. If you guys see like my bald shiny head, please come up and say hi. I've got some goodies to hand out to everyone.
Nice.
So please come up, say hi. Really excited to just meet more people in the community and just have a blast.
Yeah.
And
I'll be the one rubbing his head for good luck.
Yes.
So,
and Carolyn, thanks once again for the trivia. Always a treat. And thanks for running trivia on our Discord server every day, every other day. It's awesome. So, Carolyn, people can follow you on Twitter, right? Lorcana Bell?
Yep. Lorcana Bell, Instagram at lorcana.bell. You can always find me on the Illuminateers Discord or on the Love to Lore Discord, where I'm also a community admin.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So we need to sign off. So with that, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, feel free to follow, subscribe. We do this every week. We do videos. We follow Lorcana. It's a lot of fun. So head on over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you here next week at 7.
Yeah. Or in Dallas this weekend.
Have a great night, y'all.